Hello, friends. Welcome to another interesting session. This message today, it's an eye-opening message. Most importantly, it's a message designed to help us have understanding as to the intricacies of the issues we have been dealing with in our beloved nation, Cameroon. I come to you with a very heavy heart because I am concerned about what our nation has been going through for the past 7 to 8 years. What our nation has been going through for the past 64 years. We have not really enjoyed the privileges we would have had as Cameroonians. I believe with all my heart that if things were done a certain way, we would not be in the predicament that we find ourselves today. And my goal through this video is to help us have perspective so that we can be able to arrive at a place where we can move forward as a nation together. It takes collective effort to build anything amazing. And everyone's input does matter. I would like us to start with Ninja Fru. He's the leader of late right now, but we know there's never existed an opposition leader in Cameroon like Ninja Fru. I would like for us to listen to his perspective, because at the end of the day, the goal is not for you to be right or I'll be right or the government is right, or it's not about being right. It's about our people. It's about our nation. It's about the future of our children. It's about equality. It's about justice. It's about freedom. It's about having a dream and have that dream be realized. That is the essence as to why we live in the very first place. That everyone be happy. You do something of significant importance and feel like you are rewarded for that job. That is why we live. So let's explore this video, and I encourage you to pay close attention to everything that is going to take place during this analysis. Grab a pen and a piece of paper. Shut the door and avoid every distraction. And let's dive straight into this content. We'll be bringing some interesting key panels that are going to help us have a comprehensive view as to the intricacies of the situation that we have been dealing with in our nation for this period of time. Let's dive straight into the video.
We should lead ourselves and let the Francophone Cameroonian come out of this for us to be able to take our own decisions to say, this is what we want to do, this is how we should live.
Just from the beginning of the video, you understand that Ninja Fru is saying, let our Francophone brothers come out of this relationship with France, and together we should be able to lead ourselves. That is a desirable goal. That is something we should push for as Cameroonians, that we, the people of Cameroon, be able to lead ourselves. There are many things I'm going to say about that, but I just want us to push forward. But I want you to write a comment below and let me know, what do you think about this very first statement, that we should be able to break away from France, unite as Cameroonians, and be able to make the decisions that will govern us. Right? Let's keep watching.
Good morning, Tata. Good morning, Tata. Namesake, honorable. You are my brother. You're my brother. You know what I am going to say? My family will even threaten to disown me. Yes, because that is the kinds of people that we are. We feel things deeply, we feel sorry, we sympathize, and we really, really do not like shame. We don't like shame. So I am ready. My name is Ngembeni Wanamaso. Yes, I am the son of late Nbile. And I had to see this, to clear this, because I know that in our land, in our culture, when somebody does something, it's puts on the rest of his family. But like I said, my own family, my big family, my Bodio family will threaten to disown me, but I am willing, because I'm not doing it for the living. I am saying this for the people who have died. I want to just say, Tata, brother Njume, those two interventions you made, right? The one on taxation of people and the other one on the prorogation of the mandate, which is your right. To me, those interventions, not you, they are a disgrace to us. They are a disgrace to us. Yes, we do not have the time. We do not have the opportunity to at least talk to our representatives. But that kind of a representation will not only fall on you, it will fall on the entire people, your brothers and sisters, and on your entire region. I don't think you had to do it, because it is going around social media and the comments are terrible. I have been dying every time I listen to the audios, I read the comments, because I also have a personal opinion about that. Knowing where you are from Dian, you cannot be the one to stand and argue for more taxation of your people. And even putting up yourself how you're going to support it and you're going to follow it and campaign for it. You cannot be. Nobody is in doubt that a government needs revenue. But please do not give the impression to the rest of the world that we do not know what our beautiful country has become. Right? That you, one of us, from one of the most challenged areas of Cameroon, from Dian, will be the one to stand up and have his audio being sent around the world. You think that anybody is listening to Honorable Motase, or anybody is thinking about Honorable Motase? No, they are thinking about you, the vulnerable. I think that you, our brothers and sisters in Parliament, you're doing the great job that you can do. But please, there are certain things on which you can just sit quiet. Yes, I am saying this to you. I will send this audio to you. I don't know who else will get the audio. But my dear Honorable Njume, that intervention does not represent the minds and the wishes of your people. That is your individual position. That is your individual perspective. That is not necessary. It is not necessary. It was not necessary. Both interventions were not necessary. Nobody says you should not speak in Parliament, bro. That is why you are there. But please, pick your words carefully. You cannot go and argue for more taxation of your people. Do you know the name they are calling you now? And they are calling all of us a house slave. Yes, because...
I want to start by establishing the grievances of the Anglophones in Cameroon. The Anglophones are angry because they closed their banks, they closed their factories, they closed the power camp, the agricultural board. They closed very valuable institutions that were designed for economic development and job opportunities for the Anglophones. That is why the Anglophones are angry, because their own children cannot get jobs in companies that are established in the Anglophone zone. And I think this and many more defines what the Anglophone crisis is all about. Now, it went a little bit further, where the teachers and the lawyers went on the street marching because they felt like not only has these institutions been closed, they are replacing some of the Anglophone systems with Francophone systems, including judges from the Francophone zone coming over to the Anglophone zone to preside in a civil law approach compared to the common law, which is practiced in the Anglophone zone. So these are some of the grievances. Or maybe a teacher teaching geography in French, coming from the Francophone zone, teaching geography in French in the Anglophone zone. And this made the teachers and the lawyers to go on the street marching, demanding a change, demanding certain rights, that they want this to stop. Now, we have existed as a people for 64 years. Before the coming of the French or the British, we were a people. Maybe we were not in that geographical location called Cameroon, but a group of people existed. Maybe in tribes, we have 250 ethnic groups, so we existed in tribes. One of the mistakes that people make is looking at the root cause of a problem, maybe 1961. But I want us to be able to understand ourselves as a people, which is what maybe the rest of Africa is doing. They say, who were we before the colonial masters came? That is a valid question, right? Who were we before the colonial masters came? Who were we before slavery and slave trade? I think this is a sentiment that is going on in the continent right now. And it's very, very important that as we explore even the Anglophone issues or the problems we are dealing with in Cameroon, we should be able to step back and ask ourselves the question, who were we before Britain, France, Germany arrived the coast of Cameroon? If you want to stretch it even backwards, you can even talk about the time of the Portuguese. Starting from that place, at least can give us a perspective of what we are dealing with here. Because this is how we diagnose data. We try to go as far back as possible. Now, the people of this geographical location called Cameroon right now, I might articulate this message in English. I know 80% of the country does speak French. I'm conscious about that. We live in this union. And what I have come to understand is growing up in Cameroon, it has always been about what we are going through. And I want to step back and say, if we want to solve our problems in Cameroon, if we want to solve the Anglophone problems in Cameroon, we have to start thinking of solving the Cameroon problem. If we solve the Cameroon problem, the Anglophone problem will be taken care of. Pay attention. If we solve the Cameroon problem, the Anglophone problem will be taken care of. Because it's like, for instance, I come from Bamenda. It's like Bamenda is a whole country on its own, right? It's like Bamenda. Everything is all about like Bamenda. I mean, I have a lot of respect for my people. That's where I was born and raised. But I want to say the people of Bamenda, the day we start thinking of solving the problems of Cameroon, which is the consciousness that I'm evoking in us in this generation, your problems will be taken care of. I can hear even in our songs. I can hear it in the way we think, everything. It's about Bamenda. It's high time we start talking about Cameroon. When we start talking about Cameroon, Bamenda will be fine. Irrespective of who is president, I believe that we are a nation. We are a nation. And every time in life you're focused on yourself too much, you only get little done. You end up with little in life when you're focused on yourself too much. But when you think of others, life becomes better for you. The reason why I'm saying this is because I wanted to help us understand what that Anglophone problem is. I want to ask the Anglophones a question. Do you think there is any other problem in Cameroon that is even worse than the problems that the Anglophones are dealing with? That is what a union means. That is what even marriage means. That we come together and we are not just focused on ourselves, but we are focused on the union. What affects everyone in that union. That is how we make significant progress. You might call it an Anglophone crisis, but what I really do see is a human crisis. An issue that is affecting human beings in this geographical location. How do they come out of their own predicament and be able to make significant progress? That is my focus. So, this is an issue about taxes. We might say we are struggling right now because of the crisis for the past 7 to 8 years. But my question is everyone in the nation supposed to adhere to these tax laws, or just those in the Anglophone zone? And I want to also bring to our attention that those in the Anglophone zone are paying taxes to the Ambazonians. Because when we have an issue in our nation of this magnitude that has been existing for a very long time, others will say, this is the reason why we should break out of this union. Because going somewhere else will be able to make progress significantly. But you will always face challenges. Even in a new nation that you are attempting to create, there will be challenges. When you have challenges, are you going to run? Are you going to say, oh, now we are SCNC? We want to break away from Ambazonia? What is going to happen when you create that new nation and start facing challenges? You probably want to break away and say, no, it's too tough here. We want to create another nation, maybe called Southern Cameroons. And now you want to break away from Ambazonia. Hypothetically, that might be the next situation that you have to deal with if you go create that new nation. Human beings have been through a lot of our history. And Cameroon is not exempted. We are rewarded for solving problems. Human beings are really rewarded for solving problems. The bigger the problem you solve, the more reward you get. No one is given a trophy because they divorced their wife or because they divorced their husband. People are being celebrated when they are able to work out their differences and live together. Case in point, Abraham Lincoln in the United States of America. He came to power when this country was just 85 years old. America was 85 years old at the time. He is the 16th president of the United States of America. He came at a time where this nation was struggling. Why? Because there was a faction that wanted slavery and slave trade to continue. There was another faction that believed that slavery and slave trade should come to an end. We don't want to keep slaves anymore. That is the time he came to power. The northern states versus the southern states. When we look at the United States today, it's a privilege that some of our brothers and sisters travel to this country, study, get a job there, and are able to make some money and send some back home. My question to every Cameroonian, do you know why this nation is respected? Do you know why this nation works? Do you know why Abraham Lincoln is one of the greatest leaders of all time? It is not because he advocated for secession. It is because he advocated for unity. That those in the southern states that wanted to keep their slaves, and Abraham Lincoln and the rest in the northern states that wanted the abolition of slavery and slave trade, said, we can work out our differences, stay united, and still abolish this practice of slavery and slave trade. And go with our constitution that all men were created equal. And he was able to unite this nation and abolish slavery and slave trade. As we look at our nation today, whatever position that you have taken about this crisis, right up to this moment, I understand that most of those who are leading this crisis are on exile. That is, they did not get into this crisis even as Cameroonians. They got in as those in exile. But I want to establish that I understand that these are our brothers. These are our sisters. Whatever happened in the nation that they signed a decree and said these people will no longer be Cameroonians, they are on exile, or they decided by themselves and said, I'm not a Cameroonian, I am an Ambazonia, before the crisis started. I want to bring our attention to these things, because at the end of the day, my goal is to see how can the nation come together. Even those in exile, how can we restore them back? How can we work as one and build the nation? That is why I'm doing what I'm doing here. I might get angry. I might say certain things about some leaders and their character and their attitude. But at the end of the day, how can we all come together and make things work for everyone in Cameroon? Because I believe that this divisive energy is going to hurt all of us. If you look at what is happening with the global economy today, because when I hear taxes in Cameroon, I understand why. You all see what is happening in Kenya right now. Everywhere around the world, inflation is skyrocketing. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? It's time to say, it's not just about my position. It's about the people. The world economies right now are in bad shape. Things are going to get worse really fast, very soon. Everyone can advocate for cessation or divorce. It is easy. But it takes tough people to put everyone together and say we can work together. And America works the way it is today because why? You hear of the left and you hear of the right. You hear of the conservatives and then you hear of the liberals. You hear of the Democrats and you hear of the Republicans. That is why America works. Every 4 years or every 8 years, a Republican is going to lead America, or every 4 years or every 8 years, a Democrat will lead America. And they measure their performance over time based on what they did when they were in power. We can get to the place where we enjoy this kind of democracy in Cameroon. And our nation will become even stronger than what we see today. I know that there are those who say, people have tried this, and I'm not talking to you. If you think everyone has tried everything and it doesn't work, this message is not for you. You've given up already. But this message is for those who believe that Thomas Edison, when you turn on your light bulb, always remember that the individual who came about this invention tried 1,000 times. I'm yet to see a Cameroonian, an Anglophone, a Francophone that has tried 200 different approaches to solve the problems in our country. I doubt if any has put forth 50 strategies to solve these problems. Maximum 3, 4, 5. And they said it doesn't work. And I want to say to us as black people, what we have to learn in this generation is persistence. Come up with a plan, try, it doesn't work. You go back, study, learn, research, come up with another strategy and not get stuck on one strategy. Since the time of Gojin Dinka, the only idea that has existed is Ambazonia. And today we want to work on that same idea. My question is, we've studied, we've traveled around the world. What other philosophies and ideas have we learned that we can be able to implement to solve our challenges in our nation? Right? What other strategies have you learned? And that is what I'm interested in.
That is the attitude of the house slave. If you watch the movie during the Civil War of Samuel L. Jackson, who was a house slave, yes, he supports the master to punish the slaves in the field even more, so that they will produce more for the master. Please, you cannot withdraw it. You have made the intervention, but if I did not make this intervention, and if I did not send this message to you, my dear brother, I would not be a man at peace. Yes, I am willing for my own family to threaten to disown me for sending this message to my own brother, but I will have to send it. If only to clear, to make a saraka in my head.
There's another thing that I've heard people calling other people house slaves or field slaves. And I think Malcolm X is one of those individuals that pushed this idea in America. And he was talking about the house slaves and the field slaves. And I want to say, everyone, including the leaders of the Ambazonia movement, are acting in their own interests first, and your interest second. Because you must have an interest as to why you're fighting maybe a cause or a war, or whatever that is. You have your own personal interest. You should have an interest because that will be your motivation, right? But my thing is, your interest should not be above the interest of the people. What you aim to achieve personally should not be above the interest of the people. You need to prioritize the interest of the people first and your interest second. You have to prioritize the well-being of the people first and your interest second. With that, you will make significant progress and your decisions are going to be well thought out because you have the people in mind. To say you have no interest as to why you do what you do, it's a big lie. We'll only see those who have prioritized their personal interests and their personal gains above that of the people. It's a good thing for a human being to be ambitious, to be something, to do something with their lives, but do not prioritize that over the interests of the people. When you call others house slaves or field slaves, when you look at the life of someone like Malcolm X, how far have those with those belief systems gone with that idea? Right? Because sometimes we just want to be the goat, right? I'm the stubborn one, I'm the strong one, I'm the one that is standing out, or you claim that you're the one that has not sold out, whatever that means for you, right? I remember a story that I read in a book, very touching story, about a young black man in the United States of America that was thinking of becoming a pilot. And he went around sharing that dream with his friends and siblings that I want to become a pilot. They said he was acting white. That young man dropped that dream because he felt like he would not fit in because his siblings and friends thought he was acting white. They labeled him a sellout for dreaming to become a pilot. These are staggering realities. And tomorrow we say, oh, what is the problem with our economy? What is the problem with our community? What is the problem with our own part of the country? What is the problem with black people? For instance, CSDP movement, which is aimed at uniting Cameroonians so that we can be able to look at this problem from a different angle. I've experienced more challenges from Anglophones. And they've labeled me, sold out, La Republic, all sorts of names. And this is just because I'm thinking. I'm looking at the same problem and I'm asking myself the question, what other way can we solve this problem that people will not die? This is exactly what I'm doing. I'm thinking. I'm studying, I'm researching, and I'm thinking. Before we understood that we were human beings, we were conscious, we are black people, we are Cameroonians, we are Anglophones. What were we before then? Before we adopted this heritage from the colonial master that we think we should kill and fight one another because of this, before we started looking at the resources in the ground and feel like these resources are more important than people, who were we before then? You were born and told you were an Anglophone. You were born and told you were a Francophone. What if today you were born in the Francophone zone? What if you were a Francophone? I'm talking to the Anglophones. And for the Francophones, what if you were born in the Anglophone zone? What if you were an Anglophone? How will you look at this problem? Life is all about trade-offs. Because the idea is that some institution is the cause of all our problems. No, life is just about trade-offs. What are you going to trade off for your peace? Trade off for your security? Trade off for economic development? What are the trade-offs? You have to put on the table what you're going to trade off. It's not like the institutions are going to solve everyone's problem. If institutions were going to solve everyone's problem, look at the wealth gap in the United States of America. The top 1% in America own 35% of the wealth in this country. No, tell me about that. Tell me about that. Is it discrimination? Is it color? Right? I said the top 1% own 35% of the wealth in this country. This is a human problem. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? The median household income of white folks in America is more than the median household income of blacks in America, and this has existed for generations. Now, the staggering thing is the median household income for Asians is more than the median household income for white people in this country. So are you going to say it is racism? Let me repeat that again so you can get it clear. The median household income of white folks in America is more than the median household income for blacks in America. The median household income of Asians in America is more than the median household income of white people in this same United States of America. My question to you, is that discrimination? Is that racism? What we are dealing with here is a human problem. There are those who are Anglophone and Francophone hustlers. They hustle on the Anglophone crisis. That is their job, is the Anglophone crisis. Without the Anglophone crisis, they wouldn't have a job. And we got to be able to get to the place where we understand that the people's destiny is more important than our hustle. Because people are genuinely suffering. People are genuinely struggling. The race in this world is between three groups of people. The have-nots, and the have a little and want more. Those are the three groups. You can say the wealthy, the middle class, and the poor. The reason I'm sharing this with us is so we stop thinking too much that a new country will fix the problems that we Anglophones are dealing with. And America is strong, admired, and respected today because they stayed together. There was a common enemy, that was Britain, a colonial master that left distance away and colonized America. They dealt away with Britain. But to say they'll break up America, they said no to that. We must unite and build this nation. Canada had the same story. But they have been able to figure out their differences and they are living together. Nelson Mandela had issues in South Africa, went to prison for 27 years. What made him great? is that he came out of prison and did not stir up animosity towards white people, had some of them on his cabinet and said, let's come together and build South Africa. That is why Nelson Mandela is respected globally today. Young people, those who see challenges, maybe the imposition of taxes, and the solution is that let's break away. And maybe if you break away, you're not going to pay taxes. I don't think so. And those who always come up as the princes that will create that utopia that you live in and not pay taxes. Historically, those who always advocate for the secessionist movements always end up in a tyrannical country. I repeat that again. Those who ever succeed at all, if they do succeed with secessionist movement, always over the long run become tyrants. I want you to look at nations that have experienced a similar situation like what we are going through, break out. Most of those nations have always emerged with a tyrannical leader, because those who end up leading those nations always never fulfill their promises. And because they never fulfill their promises, those who help them to get to that position of power become envious and jealous. And so, guess what? To stay in power, he must become a tyrant. And you've gradually seen that happening with the Ambazonia struggle. What happened? You've seen some other leaders saying, oh, guess what? I'm going to take out this one. I will kill this one. I will destroy this one's property. That is the situation. You think it's something new. It is human behavior and it's human evolution. Most of the time, the leader spearheading the secessionist movement, if they succeed and create this new country, it will be tough to meet up with the demands of everyone that helped him get into that position. Because he's not able to please everyone, he will become a tyrant and silence most of his oppositions. That is the history, the evolution of secessionist movements. And some of these things, you will see them in the open when most of those leaders are dead and gone. Because at the time where they are tyrannizing their people, or when they are tyrants, some of those stories are covered. And you only hear that X amount of people were killed, murdered, buried, locked up in prison. And you only get to know those stories after that tyrant is killed or is dead or is overthrown. That is human evolution. I know you think you are an angel and your situation will be different. But what has been going on between the Ambazonian leaders is clear proof that the cycle always repeats itself. The same problem is going to emerge, if not now, and then in the future. That is our story.
Yesterday, the president of Cameroon declared war on us. Let me remind him that we have been at war with Cameroon for 56 years.
Hear that? We've been at war with Cameroon for 56 years. And somehow we think the war started in 2016. And we have been conditioned in the Anglophone zone terribly towards our nation. From the beginning, I said, I'm not disputing the fact that we as a minority are not facing challenges in Cameroon. But I want to let you know, to put the blame on the current institutions. Yes, there's room for transformation. We should transform old institutions. I do agree. But to say the 100% blame of the struggles we've dealt with in Cameroon is because of the institutions or because of the government is not entirely true. Case in point, every economy thrives because of production. Hypothetically, every economy thrives because of production. If you go to your local government secondary school today, you see most students in the arts department. We need food to stay alive. We need a house to live in. We need running water. We need electricity. These are the basic necessities of life. We need a local convenience store where you can hop in, buy your bread, buy your eggs, buy groceries. We need all of these things. These are basic necessities of life. My question is, all these social sciences, this art department that we crowd in for years, studying history, studying philosophy, studying literature, at the end of the day, is there any tangible product that these departments create that can help you have food on your table, that can help you have water, running water, have electricity, food on your table, a roof over your head? Is there any tangible product that any of this institution create for us? And the answer is no. The students that do poorly in school are those we send to technical schools. Imagine what our society would have looked like if these A, B, and C students enrolled in those technical institutions and were able to deploy everything that they have in their head to study in a technical institution. Imagine what our community would have looked like. And this is something that you as a parent, you start from home. I remember a young person right here at Nation Builders University. He shared a great story with me. He said he's very young and wealthy today. And everything he is today is because of his father. He said his father took him from Form 1 to a technical school. It was very uncomfortable, to make sure that he understands that this is beautiful. When you know what you are learning here, it is going to help you put food on your table. And he said today he's a contractor and he's glad about his life, and everything that he is today is thanks to his father. And that gesture of taking him to school, sat down on a desk with him to make sure that he studies and loves architecture. I'm talking about the things that society has not done for us. Our parents, our loved ones never took the time to look for income generating institutions and send us to those income generating institutions. It is better you go through a technical school, fail and never even graduate. What you've learned there can put food on your table, even if you don't graduate, because today we're only looking for certificates. And at the end of the day, those certificates don't put food on the table. And when an economy is not producing, guess what happens? We are breeding angry people. Someone will go for ENS and they are not taken. They get out and they say the government is corrupt. My question is, what is the population of Cameroon? How many students graduate with a history degree, a literature degree, a physics degree? How many? And if they need a job from the government, how many people are scrambling for that job? A lot. You understand? But those in technical schools, when most of them graduate, they are guaranteed to get a job. You see what I'm saying? And then you ask yourself, what are all of these students doing in these history classes? What are you doing in these social sciences classes? I think that we should shut down this department. Maybe for the next 10 years, we should have no department of art in Cameroon. Honestly, shut it down. I think we should shut down the social sciences department in every institution in Cameroon for the next 10 years. If your child decides to go study history at the university, literature at the university, let them pay out of their own pocket. If they want to become an engineer, you pay for that. If they want to go to the commercial schools, you pay for that. Go study finance, study accounting, you pay for that. They want to become an electrical engineer, they want to become a civil engineer, software engineer, you pay for that. They want to go become a doctor, you can pay for that. But if they want to go study literature, history in a university, do not pay. Most of the angry people out here today studied in the social sciences. Today, just take a close look. Most of the people fighting today are most of the students coming out of the social sciences. I'm saying this because that was the tracks that I was on. And then I realized at some point after research and studies, I said, this is where the problem is. I know there are many problems, but this is huge.
I hear some political leaders now saying, oh, we want federation now. But those are people who objected to the federation that the SDF came up with. That Frundi talking about the federation meant, what Frundi meant was secession. They started muting this thing a long time ago, which we condemned.
To notice that...
the same federation that Ninja Mfronzi advocated for, he was being challenged by his own people. There are a lot of internal conflicts among us that I keep emphasizing that are some of the root cause of the issues that we have been dealing with. And if we do not address this, we will struggle making progress as a people in this generation and the generation to come. Again, if we focus on solving the problems of Cameroon, the Anglophone problem will be taken care of.
Equatorial Guinea, Mali, and Sudan, who are really facing what Cameroon is facing today, this system of divide and rule. And we think of what what happened in some other countries around the world. If you want to take the case of Germany, they were divided and now they've come together. Korea was also divided, and they're struggling to come back. But they come to Africa and want to split us. What advice would you give?
No, it's not the white man trying to split us, it's we splitting ourselves. If you say Germany came back together, North and South Korea are coming together, and other countries came together, it is Cameroon and the Anglophone Cameroonians first who opted to come together, who voted to come together. So unification, the architects of unification are the Anglophone Cameroonians.
Are you guys hearing that? That is a very powerful statement, that the architect of unification are the Anglophones. Do you understand that? It's not the white man. Because this is really an inflection point. Just listening to what Ninja Mfronzi said. We got to understand that if Cameroon will be fine, if Anglophones will be fine, we have to really believe in the union that we got into. If for 56 years, as Cho Ayaba cited, we've never thrown in our all at some point to say, in spite of what is happening, let us all come together and throw our all into this nation and see what we can do to fix the challenges in this country and move forward. If we did that, we would have made significant progress. But it has always been about us. I'm telling you guys, when you only see yourself in life, even at the level of a nation, if all you see is yourself, you're going to struggle. Look at other people. I'm here doing what I'm doing because I'm looking at you. If you come here and all you see is yourself, you will not do much. I want you to listen to what I'm saying here and think about others. When we do that, change will come rapidly. This transformation that we are seeking, even in Cameroon, start asking yourself the question, how will it benefit even the Francophones? That is a good place to start. Because people who are selfish, they cannot think about the next person, right? They cannot think about what will be in it for the next person. When you make profit in business, others should make profit as well. It should be a win-win situation. And always ask yourself the question, what is in it for the other person?
I am a farmer, a rancher, but sometimes on the table with the smaller chew I eat, I might eat 2-3 slices of beef. Those get too much for me. So there's nothing in the world here that would eat and think that you can eat all of it. When you are young, you think that you can have so much. But as life advances, you can't have all that you think you could have. So I want to If you know that when you kill and they send you to kill, who are you killing? Your own brothers. The situation in the north southwest is different from Boko Haram, because Boko Haram came, people who don't know, to attack our people, to attack us. I gave my own contributions to the soldiers and to the government to send to the soldiers, to those that were sick at the Yaoundé military hospital. If I didn't regard them as my own children, I couldn't have done that. And I call on the soldiers, if you are sent to kill your own brothers and sisters, please don't do it, because it is criminal. The so-called Anglophone issues, Cameroonians of good standing have written very well about it. And they made it clear that Mr. Biya knows the Anglophone issues more than me, Frundi, talking about.
You hear that? I mean, that is very interesting. And I think this is a place where I say it is important for the head of state to get engaged and communicate with the people. There is nothing more like communication. In spite of what has happened, let the head of state get engaged. You are leading a people. I understand the strategy of silence, but it's important that you step out and speak to the people. In times like this, I think there's a lot of bleeding in this country. People have died a lot in this country. This has never happened in our history. And I think it is high time the head of state step up. If not, those who surround him step up and speak to the people. Guide the people. When you don't do so, others will have control over the people. And it's not a good situation for everyone, including the future of this country.
Because late President Hijo had made Mr. Biya Secretary General.
And I'm just saying this because if you read our constitution carefully, the constitution of Cameroon, the constitution might not be what you wanted, it might not be what you like, but there is a constitution in place. For the teachers and the lawyers, I understand what Ninja Frunzi is saying, but for the teachers and lawyers to go on the street marching, and then we have total independence, Ambazonia signs and placards everywhere, it is not a good thing. That is why you see military was deployed. The army was deployed. Why? Because of signs like this. When signs like this show up, it indicates that the seeds of secession has matured. And that's why they said a group of individuals claiming to be secessionists that are criminals have emerged within the nation, and they are attempting to divide the nation because of placards like this that came out during the period when the teachers and the lawyers were marching. Is it a noble thing for those who went on the street marching? Yes, some people choose that option to go on the street demanding for their rights. But when we see placards, like you've seen the situation in Kenya, have you seen a group of people emerging and saying we want to divide Kenya? But there are tribes within Kenya. There are people who do not agree with the government in Kenya. But to have placards like this and the population is following those who are pushing for this agenda is not a good sign for our country. I want to help us have perspective. In spite of the strong position and how powerful you think you are right now, at the end of the day, I want to make things so clear to everybody. This is not a good sign. We could write anything else like we want change. We could even say Pobia must go. But to have placards saying total independence Ambazonia is not a good sign for our country.
Or secretary of the committee that was set in those days to look at the Anglophone issues. And out of those people, about 15 of them, I think only 3 are alive. And Mr. Biya, who was the secretary of that committee, is alive. So he should know what the Anglophone problems are. So if the Anglophone problem started then, he took and put under his foot and clutched it down and never came out with solutions, or never proposed solutions to the president, and took over and never brought the solutions, and it's mounted up to the situation where it is now.
Okay, and this is my understanding of the situation. I think the Anglophone crisis should be solved within the larger context of the Cameroon crisis. This is a post-independence country. Since we got our independence, we have been struggling with the structures that we adopted from the colonial master. And I think to make significant progress, we have to get to the place where we understand that we are a nation that is made up of English and French-speaking Cameroonians. And
I also equally believe that there is a need for the separatists also to try to tone down their demands, to try to be realistic, taking in consideration also some of the aspirations of the people in Southern Cameroon, who might be a minority, who don't want separation and who don't want this violence to continue.
So that is Agbo Bala saying those advocating for secession should bear in mind that there are Anglophones that do not share their views. And their position should be respected. But what do? You label them blackleg. And that is why I said, if they create a nation called Ambazonia, whoever leads that nation will become a tyrant. They will try to tell you, oh, I'm an angel and I'll give you everything you want. No, they will become a tyrant. And this is what the entire population should know. And most of those who are close to these leaders, you will become their enemy. Immediately this nation is created, because that leader will not grant you everything that you want, and you worked extremely hard to put them in power. And that is where that problem starts. And he will either kill you, put you in jail, you will be missing and nobody will know your whereabouts, and it will come from that leader that you are close to, because you will want certain things. You'll be demanding certain rights. You want for him to grant you certain favors, and he will not want to do that because he wants to take control over that territory and be in power. And because of that, you will be either killed, jailed, or something will happen to you that we don't even know what will happen to you. But that is the story. So that is the situation. We've studied this over history. It always happens again and again and again. Those close to that leader right now that are fighting so hard to put them in power, when they become those leaders, they will not be able to meet up with your demands, because they will undermine what your demands are. And because you start fighting them, because they want to consolidate power, they will either do away with you so that they can maintain their position. That is the history of those who advocate for secession and succeed if they do. And that is the turnout. And that is why I'm saying it's time for you to reflect. I know right now you have this spirit in you that you feel like now everything is going to be smooth. Everything is going to be fine. Everyone thought like that. Even when you were planning to get married, you knew there was a day that you will ever quarrel or argue with your wife. No, everything was supposed to be fine. You guys will be fine. But when you got into it, you realize there are challenges. And it's the same thing with what you guys are advocating for. I know this is new for most people because we've never ever experienced something like this. And so somehow you think it's going to be different, right? Just like they are thinking like, oh, what we are planning to do to unite Cameroon and move forward cannot be a possibility. What you are attempting to get into has been well documented. But if you look at a nation like America, in spite of their differences, they have been able to unite and work together. And it's one of the most prosperous nations on earth. And it's for a reason. So the youths in Kenya were demanding certain rights, including turning down the financial bill President Ruto was pushing for. A lot has happened. The reason why I bring up this video is because I know it is a good thing to demand change. We want change. Everyone wants change. Change is desirable, right? But the question often is, what is that change? What does it look like if you achieve it, right? So the youth of Kenya went on the street marching. They pushed for their president to turn down the bill, the financial bill. Right now, they are pushing for certain reforms within Kenya. They had a conference and the young people came together. They said, okay, let's listen to what that change will look like. What do you want to change what we currently have to? Take a listen.
And when I go into every office, I see the picture of the president. I don't mean any disrespect, but is that also a symbol of that is compulsory? You understand? Like, I wonder why I don't see the picture, a framed, beautiful picture of the Constitution of Kenya, of the preamble signed by the Kibaki.
They want to replace the picture of the president in public offices with the Constitution. I mean, with all respect, do you know how ludicrous that is? That is the change people want, right? But if you ask them, how will that give you a job, provide for you a good life in Kenya, help you have opportunities in Kenya? The Constitution was written by humans, and we elect a human in power to uphold that Constitution so we can hold them accountable. So maybe the Constitution should be the president. Are you guys understanding? When we want change, people come up with all sorts of ideas, right? We wanted change in Cameroon. All of a sudden, people came up with Ambazonia. People came up with all sorts. This is the same thing that is happening in Kenya. People will come up with all sorts of ideas. But one thing that they are not advocating for is cessation. But people are coming up with all sorts of crazy ideas. I've been following the case in Kenya closely, and I've heard all sorts of ridiculous ideas coming out of people's mind as to the change that they really want. And we can't have this, guys. We can't. And that is why I'm saying to Cameroonians, we got to define what that outcome is. But this idea of cessation, Ambazonia, is not a conversation we should have. We are not going to divide. If you think Cameroon will divide, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your energy for no good reason. It is time for you to come back to reality. And even if it divides, I want to let you know you're getting into something worse than where you find yourself right now. 40,000 plus people have died already, so it's not better, right? It's not better. And if you think the economy of Cameroon or Yaoundé will collapse and somehow your economy will thrive and they will not be able to sustain the war because their economy has collapsed, all of these stories will only push our nation into more debt to help solve this problem. And at the end of the day, we all have to deal with this debt and deal with this problem. The earlier we get to reality and start addressing these things right now, because everyone in that nation is going to pay. Even if you are benefiting from the war right now, your children will struggle at some point in the future. If things go sideways, it's going to affect everybody. The fight between the haves and the have-nots will become the norm. And guess what? Society will not be convenient for everybody. So the earlier we collectively come together and start working out our differences, and if you are a Cameroonian, you were born in that land, you have a national ID card or birth certificate, or you have any stake in Cameroon, it's high time we come together and fix our nation. And I want to let you know, President Paul Biya does not own Cameroon. The government does not own Cameroon. The people voted for these individuals to represent us. Let that be clear. And so when there is a problem within the nation and you think that you should fight and destroy properties within your nation, thinking you are attacking the government, you're just increasing the problem. And at the end of the day, we got to figure out a way to erect these institutions. And so we are increasing more cost. It will end up with you getting to pay taxes to take care of those properties that have been destroyed. So this solution, this strategy is not sustainable at all. President Paul Biya does not own Cameroon. The people of Cameroon own Cameroon. The people of Cameroon, both French-speaking and English-speaking Cameroonians, own Cameroon. Maybe you don't understand your rights as a citizen within the nation. You don't understand who you are as a citizen in the nation. Yes, we elected these leaders in authority to govern us. If what they are doing, we do not agree, we can be able to get into the system, come up with a way to solve those problems without resorting to violence, destroying state properties, destroying private properties. At the end of the day, our economy is going down with our strategy. There is no income created when you go destroy a property. There is no income created when you go destroy a public property, you go destroy someone's property or someone's business, or you kidnap someone for ransom. You don't generate no income, because at the end of the day, the way you spend that money, there's no accountability for that. And so we'll end up paying somehow through taxes in the future, if not now, in the future. So it's time for us to think and act responsibly. We live in the 21st century. There are many resources at our disposal. We can harness skills that can be income generating and be able to create the kind of nation that we want to see for ourselves.
I mean, that is what we give the president to uphold. That is his custodianship in terms of mandate when you are a president. So I think we have to do away with the frills, with that kind of, self-aggrandizement, idolatry somewhat, because it's also, it's behavior modification. You keep seeing this image, and instead of seeing the Constitution, instead of seeing the rules by which we want to govern ourselves as a society, we see a person. And so none of us can get away with seeing this person, either at national government level, offices, public offices, private sector offices, county governments. Wow. I think it's time for us to put the symbols of power by the people where they should be.
Former president ended up sitting was just behind me and to the right of me, and this was a slow build.
So President Trump was recently shot during a rally in Pennsylvania. A tragic incident. The young man who shot him was killed by the Secret Service immediately. This is a very important event, not just for Americans, but also a lesson for Cameroonians to learn. Some of us live in these great nations, and somehow we've been tied either to the left or to the right. And I love the way Americans, both the current president and President-to-be, President Trump, I love especially the way past presidents and the current president handled the situation. Keep watching.
First, we saw members of his family arriving, then his face, video of him on the screen with that bandage on his ear, and then he entered the hall. So there was a build-up here, big cheers as he entered here, and he took a seat next to his new running mate, J.D. Vance, this now becoming their first event as the Republican ticket.
My fellow Americans, I want to speak to you tonight about the need for us to lower the temperature in our politics. And to remember, while we may disagree, we are not enemies. We're neighbors, we're friends, co-workers, citizens, and most importantly, we are fellow Americans. We must stand together. A former president was shot.
We must stand together. Cameroonians, we must stand together. In spite of our political differences, in spite of our views about our nation, in spite of our experiences, even the black people that have been slaves in this country for 400 years, you've not seen them split up this nation. I think they've been hurt more than the way we have as Anglophones in Cameroon. They've not split up this nation. And I want to help you understand that this is high time we stand up and unite and work together and say, in spite of what we have gone through, you cannot count the cost of war. You cannot count the cost when it comes to what we have lost. But guess what? We can let go of the past and move forward to the future. And I think this is a more refreshing perspective if we want to make our nation better, if we want to make Cameroon great, if we want the Cameroon dream to become a reality for every Cameroonian. We have to be able to set aside our differences, learn from a great nation like this, see what is happening, pick it, plug it, and be able to get the results and move forward and make progress. And not sit in our own little corner and say, this person can never change. And if this person can never change, then what makes you think I should believe you will change? If this person or this system will remain like that forever, what hope do I have that your own system is even going to work? Are you guys understanding? If we cannot have faith and hope in someone else, how come do we want others to have hope and faith in what we are preaching? If our approach is that some other group of people are not able to change.
An American citizen killed while simply exercising his freedom to support the candidate of his choosing. We cannot, we must not go down this road in America. There is no place in America for this kind of violence, or for any violence ever. Period. No exceptions. We can't allow this violence to be normalized. All of us now face a time of testing as the election approaches. And the higher the stakes, the more fervent the passions become. This places an added burden on each of us to ensure that no matter how strong our convictions, we must never descend into violence. Let's never.
No matter how your conviction is, we should never descend to violence. And I think every Cameroonian, every Anglophone, the military in Cameroon, the leaders in authority in Cameroon, I think this is a clarion call. I think we need to back off. This approach of violence will not help us. And we should learn from the greatest nation on earth. Both those in power and those in the opposition all stand together and say, we do not condone violence. And some of you live in America hearing this. And I think it's high time you rise up and say no to violence in your own country. And not be someone that is pushing for violence with the idea that the government in Cameroon will never change and the only way for you to achieve your objective is through violence. President Biden is from the left, and most of you with your ideology are pushing for radical left ideas. And I'm saying, in spite of your position, this is President Biden saying no to violence. Can you condemn this of any kind? And stop. You start by saying, I want to let the young people on the ground understand that violence has no place in Cameroon. Keep your guns down and stop the fighting. There is no place for violence in Cameroon. That is a good place for us to start. No one should die for whatever reason.
Lose sight of who we are. Let's remember we are the United States of America. There is nothing beyond our capacity when we do it together. God bless you all, and may God protect her.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, you know, what I have found is that you can, you should be able to change your mind. You know, people today, no matter on any issues, you can learn, you can get closer to things, and then you can change your mind.
You can learn and you can change your mind no matter the position that you've had for the rest of your life. You can change your mind. And I'm saying the only way you will get to change your mind is to prioritize the well-being of the people over your political ambitions. Over your political ambitions. If you measure the cost and you look at your people dying more, you should be able to change your mind. That is why Mahatma Gandhi is celebrated, because he said no violence and stayed his course, no violence. That is why Nelson Mandela is celebrated. That is why Martin Luther King Jr. is celebrated. Because they said no violence. No violence. I mean, don't twist their words or their intentions or their movements. They said no violence and they lifted. Those are leaders that we respect, and we respect them for a reason.
The economy was much better in the country. We had a better border, better foreign policy. So I think independents, even though they'll see two hard conservatives running probably, I still think they'll think they were better off in the Trump years, and hopefully they'll choose the Republican ticket.
I hope this message meant something to you, that you can sit back today and reflect about how far we've come as a people. Understand that it is time for us to come together and walk, not talk. It's not to come on the table to talk. It's time to come together and walk to build our country, not coming together to talk. Let's come together and build and walk and develop and produce. When we come together and start receiving the necessary education, empowering entrepreneurs, producing and having a thriving economy, we will be able to eliminate most of these problems over time. There is no shortcut. If someone is selling you something else, if you're buying it, that some leader will emerge and change everything overnight, good luck with that. But the way we transform an economy like ours, transform a nation like ours, is to become industrious. As we become industrious in the process, we will be able to eliminate any long-term debt cycle that our nation is caught up in. Because Cameroon owes some of this nation that we are saying do not associate with. Cameroon probably owes francs. Cameroon probably owes the World Bank. Cameroon probably owes IMF. And you cannot just break away from those relationships with shared will and determination. You have to pay back that money. Whatever money you borrowed, you have to pay it back. Remember, the World Bank and the IMF, these are institutions that were created at the end of the Second World War to help nations that went into war to rebuild their economy. Over time, the IMF and the World Bank have been solving other global crises and solving challenges in other countries, including third world nations like ours. And I just want to say, if you owe them, you have to pay back that money. And so it's hard for you to say the president should just cut off from these people, break away from this relationship. No, if you've signed a contract and you borrowed money, you have to pay back that money. If you borrow that money to revive your economy, you have to pay back that money. And guess what? If you look at our production capacity in Cameroon, I don't think it's up to that standard that we should be if we really worked hard together and united. And so it is time for us to embark on building, because it's only when we build and we're able to repay those debts. When we repay those debts, we can be able to say we are breaking out of this relationship, because when you pay that money, you are free. You are free. And the only way we get there is to become productive. When you are productive, you'll be able to pay back your debt and be able to offset the long-term debt cycle that our nation finds itself in. Have you asked yourself the question, how much does Cameroon owe and who does Cameroon owe? Right? You might say, I don't want our country to be controlled by France. I don't want our government to be controlled by France. Yeah, Ninja Fru said that. That is something that we should desire, right? But look at all the contracts that our country probably got itself into before President Pobia even came to power. And the debt that has been accumulated maybe by his regime. In order for us to have complete control over our nation and do as we want, we have to be able to address those debts. I hope this message was enlightening to you. I encourage you to share this video, like it, drop a comment below. What did you learn from what I just shared? And how can you take action on what you've heard today and make a difference in your country and make a difference in Cameroon and make a difference in your community? God bless you and God bless Cameroon. If you like this video and you want to watch another one, click right here. If you want to watch the entire video, click right here.